Mobile phones, particularly smartphones, which have become inseparable companions in our modern lives, are relatively new. However, the history of mobile phones can be traced back to 1908, when a U.S. patent for a wireless telephone was granted in Kentucky. Mobile phones were invented in the 1940s by AT&T engineers who created cells for mobile phone-based stations. Interesting? I know. Welcome back to Evo Chronicles, where we showcase the evolution of movies, video games, and technology. And in this video, we are tracing the evolution of phones. Earlier, anything even barely close to phones were two-way radios that allowed taxi drivers and emergency personnel to communicate. Motorola was the first company to manufacture the first portable mobile phone on April 3, 1973. In 1973, Motorola's John F. Mitchell and Martin Cooper exhibited the world's first handheld cellular phone, which weighed 2 kilograms. In 1979, Nippon Telegraph and Telephone built the first commercially automated cellular network analog in Japan. The early mobile phones were known as zero-G cell devices, or zero-generation mobile phones. The majority of phones today use 3G or 4G mobile technology. And in the coming times, we're going to have access to 5G networks too. Tracing the history back to the beginning. Mobile phones have a long history that started off with experiments in communications from and to moving vehicles rather than handheld devices. In later years, the main challenges have been in the development of interoperable standards and coping with the explosive success and ever-increasing demand for bandwidth and reliability. It all began in the year 1926. It was a successful attempt when mobile phone service was offered to first-class passengers on the Deutsche Reichsbahn on the route between Berlin and Hamburg. In 1969, the NMT Group, or Nordic Mobile Telephone, was founded. Engineers from Sweden, Denmark, Norway, and Finland were among those who participated. Its goal was to create a mobile phone system that was more accessible than those now available in the United States. Dr. Martin Cooper, in 1973, general manager of the Motorola Communications System Division, made the first public mobile phone call on a device that weighed 1.1 kilograms. In 1985, comedian Ernie Wise conducted the first public mobile phone call in the UK. The GSM standard's technical standards were approved in 1987. The world's first GSM phone, as well as the first to send a text message. GSM was first offered in Europe in 1991 with the Orbital TPU 900, although mobile phones were not confined to corporate usage until 1992. Furthermore, this was the first phone to send a text message, Merry Christmas, on December 3, 1992. Siemens launched the very first colored phone. The Global Handy, the first gadget without an external antenna, was released the same year by Haganuk. Nokia released the 7110 in 1999, which was the first device to support Wireless Application Protocol, or WAP, which is a data transmission protocol for mobile wireless networks. A year later, in the year 2000, the JSH-04, the world's first camera mobile phone, was released. In 2003, the 3G standard started to be adopted worldwide, kicking off the age of the mobile internet and paving the way for the rise of smartphones. Hong Kong-based Hutchinson Whampoa owned 3 brands, offering the first 3G network connection in the UK, among other countries. In 2006, Sony Ericsson Z1010 and BlackBerry Pearl 8100 were released. In March 2003, 3G was introduced, allowing for download speeds of up to 2 megabits per second. With this, front-facing cameras were introduced in 2003 on devices such as the Sony Ericsson C1010, paving the way for video calling on mobile phones. The LG Prada launched the first touchscreen on the market. It was 2007 when the forever high-demand iPhone debuted on the market. The transformations between 2008 and 2014. In 2008, the T-Mobile G1 was the first Android phone released in the year. It was a far cry from the high-end Android smartphones we use today, and it's now known as the OG of Android phones. Not least because it still has a real keyboard and a trackball like the BlackBerry. Both Apple's App Store and the Android market, subsequently renamed the Google Play Store, debuted that year, paving the way for our modern-day app culture. A year later, WhatsApp was introduced, allowing users to make and receive phone calls and text messages over the internet. With 1.2 billion users, the messaging system now sends over 10 billion messages per day. This puts it 50% ahead of traditional texting in terms of popularity. 2016 onwards. Another versatile event that happened in history was the Pokemon Go app. The free augmented reality game shows Pokemon characters in the actual environment using smartphone camera and location. The goal of the game is to travel to various areas in order to collect as many Pokemon as possible, which has led to several gamers walking into lampposts in their attempt to catch them all. The Nokia 3310 was resurrected with a new model that included rudimentary web browsing, a colorful screen, and even a camera. Despite this, it kept our favorite aspects from the original 3310, such as the classic design, super long battery life, and even an upgraded snake. With the all-screen iPhone X, Apple celebrated 10 years in the smartphone business and dropped the traditional home button for the first time. Change in size over the years. The original wireless phones were larger and more portable than we're used to, yet they couldn't fit in our pockets. The emergence of tiny handsets occurred in the late 1990s and early 2000s. They were the ones that had a keypad on their desk. Touchscreen phones eventually took over the market in the years after that. Touchscreen phones were a luxury at the time, but they were still affordable. As a result, it heralded the dawn of the smartphone era. We can all agree that smartphones are slightly larger than keypad phones, but they're worth it because they easily slip into our pockets. The best part is that cell phones are available in a range of sizes, from huge to little. You can make your choice based on your preferences. The iPhone, iOS, and Android are the two main competitors in the market, OS. With the most recent developments and updates dictating the market, potentially makes life easier. Here, we present a list of the headsets that contributed most to the evolution of phones. Number 1, Motorola Dynatic 800X. The Motorola Dynatic 800X, 1985, was the first handheld mobile phone and loudly announced the beginning of a new era. Number 2, Nokia 1011. The Nokia 1011 was the world's first mass-market phone to use the new GSM digital standard, and it was available in any color as long as it's black. Number 3, Motorola StarTAC. The StarTAC debuted in 1996 with the clamshell design and was the lightest phone on the market. Number 4, the Haginook Global Handy. Founded in 1997, the first phone with no visible external antenna was a German-made and impractically basic cell phone. Number 5, Siemens S10 and Nokia 5110. Siemens' S10 was a landmark product by any standard when it was released in 1998, the first phone with a color screen. The latter was an instant hit and helped to spark the trend of customizing your phone. Number 6, the Nokia 7110 and the Motorola TimePort. Another first for Nokia was the 7110, which was the first cell phone to include a WAP browser. This indicated that it could access the internet, or at the very least a slowed-down version of it that was of little use to most people. Despite this, it was a significant step toward the multifunctionality that today's smartphones are known for. The Motorola TimePort was the first tri-band GSM phone, which meant it could be used everywhere on the planet. Number 7, Nokia 9210 communicator, Nokia 3310, and Sharp JSH04. The first serious attempt at an internet-enabled mobile phone, the communicator, was ahead of its time. It weighed around 400 grams, so it was no one's idea of pocket-sized. But on the plus side, it had 8 megabytes of storage and a full keyboard, which it used as a web browser and for email support. The first commercially available camera phone, Sharp's Effort, was only sold in Japan and had a camera resolution of 0.11 megapixels. The 3310 was the phone that sparked 1,000 memes due to its legendary durability. With 126 million devices sold, it's one of the most popular phones of all time. The battery lasted for days, and it weighed only 133 grams, making it genuinely pocketable. The snake game, adjustable ringtones, and a quiet vibrate mode was also introduced. Number 8, Nokia 1100 and BlackBerry 6210. In 2003, Nokia released the Nokia 1100 as a basic phone for poor countries. It is still the best-selling mobile phone of all time, after more than a decade and a half and one smartphone boom. The first BlackBerry phone combined a phone with full email, web browsing, and the popular BlackBerry Messenger. Number 9, Motorola Razr V3 in 2004. With a thickness of barely 14 millimeters, the Razr was the last outstanding flip phone. It also had an aluminum housing that looked painfully sleek, which was unusual for the period. Ironically, the Razr's enormous success was arguably the main cause of Motorola's demise. In retrospect, it's clear that the company's over-reliance on this popular and famous series caused it to lag behind. And number 10, Apple iPhone in 2007. The iPhone is a groundbreaking new smartphone that allows customers to make calls simply by pointing at a name or number. In 2007, iPhone was a 3.5-inch diagonal screen, 380 by 480 pixels at 163 ppi and a 2-megapixel camera. Thousands of consumers were said to have queued outside Apple and AT&T stores days before the device's release, with many stores reporting stock shortages within an hour of its release. Today, brands like Oppo, Redmi, OnePlus, and many more have emerged. And there's a significant difference since 2007, like in hardware. Devices are significantly more powerful and faster. Multiple programs can be used at the same time. HD cameras are used. Music and video streaming, as well as online gaming, are simple to do. Instead of minutes or hours, the battery lasts for days. During the cellular revolution of the 1990s, cell phones became increasingly popular. In 1990, there were roughly 11 million mobile phone users, but by 2020, that number had climbed to 2.5 billion. We'll have to wait for future developments, but one thing is certain, it'll be better than before. So that's all for today's video. Remember to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to be notified of our regular uploads.